ago, in the countryside of Fairyland, there lived a beautiful girl called Cinderella. She lived with her mother and father in a lovely cottage in the forest. Cinderella's father was a merchant who would go into the city every day to trade. Cinderella's mother taught her how to take care of the house, sew her own clothes, and how to look after their big garden. Cinderella loved animals and befriended them all. The squirrels of the forest, the birds that lived in the tree close to her window, and even the little mice who sometimes made holes around their house. They were her friends, and they made her feel happy. One day, her mother fell sick, and her father went to get the doctor from the city. But her mother died soon after the doctor left. Cinderella's peaceful life changed from that day onwards. She mourned for weeks and months. She couldn't find happiness in anything around her. Years passed, and Cinderella's father decided to marry a rich lady who had her own successful business. Cinderella was unhappy at first, but when she learned that her new stepmother had 2 daughters, she was glad that she was to have sisters. But her 2 stepsisters were wicked and mean, and so was their mother. Cinderella's stepmother made her do all the household chores. She was cruel and gave Cinderella very little food and very few clothes. One day, the king of Fairyland asked his guards to fetch his only son and the heir to his throne. "What have you decided regarding your marriage to Princess Julia?" the king asked him. "I told you that I don't like her, father," replied the prince. "And I have told you that if you don't choose a girl to marry, I'll choose one for you myself," said the king angrily. "Perhaps we should host a big party and invite all the important families in the country. The prince can then choose a girl from all the ladies who come to the party," said one of the king's advisers. The prince agreed, and a messenger was sent to all the noble houses in the kingdom to announce the date of the party. The prince did not like this idea. It didn't seem like a good way to find a wife. He took his horse and rode to the forest to think things over. He remembered a little girl that he used to play with when he was a boy. They had played near the lake when he went there for his horse riding and hunting lessons. "Oh, how I would love to see her again. I'm sure she has grown up to be a beautiful girl," thought the prince. Thinking of his childhood friend, the prince rode to the lake, eager to find her again. Cinderella was there, playing with the little squirrels and feeding the ducks, when she saw the clouds turning grey. Cinderella could hear wolves howling. The prince was riding his horse when he heard the wolves howl. His horse reared up, and the prince fell from its back. At the same moment, Cinderella reached them and saw the prince on the ground. "Do you need help, sir?" said Cinderella. "Not from a girl, that's for sure," said the prince. "All right, then," said Cinderella, climbing onto her horse and getting ready to ride away. The wolves howled, and the prince's horse reared up again. "Your horse is afraid and hungry, and if you stay here any longer, the wolves will have a great dinner party tonight," said Cinderella, getting off her horse. She opened her bag and got out some food for both horses. She patted the prince's horse, and it began to calm down. They rode a little distance together until the howling of the wolves was far in the distance. "Who are you, and where do you live?" said the prince. "Are you a maid?" "I help my stepmother and stepsisters, and have done since my father died. Does that make me a maid?" asked Cinderella. "That makes you a kind girl," said the prince. "Tell me, are you going to the prince's party?" he asked. "I don't think so, but my stepmother and my stepsisters are going. It doesn't seem to me like a good way to find the person you're going to marry," said Cinderella. "I don't think that it's a good idea either, but I have been invited. If you go, I'll go," smiled the prince. Cinderella smiled too. "So who are you?" asked Cinderella. "I'm one of the king's knights," said the prince. "I've got to go now, and you'd better get back to the palace too," smiled Cinderella. "I'll see you there, miss," Cinderella heard him say while she was riding away. When Cinderella got home, her stepmother scolded her for being late. Cinderella didn't listen, because she was thinking about the young man she had met in the forest, He wanted to see her at the party, but Cinderella knew that her stepmother would never let her go. Besides, she didn't have any party dresses she could wear. Cinderella was sitting in the kitchen sadly, when a beautiful, kind fairy appeared in front of her. "I know you," said Cinderella. "You always see me when you're in trouble or need help. You can see me now because you're sad. You want to go to the prince's party, don't you?" said the fairy. "Oh, yes, I want to go because I promised the young knight that I would see him there. But I don't know how to get there, and my stepmother will never take me with her," said Cinderella in frustration. "Oh, you will go, my dear. Don't worry. But first you need to bring me 6 white doves, 1 mouse, and a big pumpkin," said the fairy. Cinderella ran upstairs to her animal friends, who were usually hiding under her bed or sitting on her windowsill. Her friends had known how unhappy she was about missing the party, so they were very glad to help. The fairy turned the pumpkin into a big coach, the 6 doves into 6 white horses, and the mouse into an elegant coachman. The fairy tapped Cinderella's shoulder with her wand. Cinderella's ragged dress turned into a beautiful party dress. Her hair was decorated with beautiful pearls, and a pair of diamond hoop earrings dangled from her ears. When Cinderella looked at her feet, she saw a pair of crystal shoes that glittered like 1,000 diamonds. Cinderella was ready for the party. "You have to leave the party before midnight, because by then all the magic will disappear," said the fairy. The coach took Cinderella to the king's palace. She looked stunning, and everyone looked as she made her entrance through the palace doors. Cinderella looked around, but she couldn't see the young knight anywhere. She saw her stepmother and her stepsisters. Although they didn't recognize her, their jealousy was obvious. Many gentlemen asked her to dance with them, but she declined. She saw the young knight on the terrace, and he saw her too. "I'm glad you came," said the prince. "I promised you I would." "You look like a prince in that outfit," said Cinderella. "That's because I'm a real prince. I'm the king's only son," said the prince. Cinderella was surprised by the news. "You lied to me," she said angrily. The prince took Cinderella's hand and led her to the dance floor. When they started dancing, the prince said, "I was afraid that I would lose you if you knew that I was the prince. You reminded me of a little girl I used to play with when I was young. I was trying to find her on the day we met." "Did you used to play with her by the lake, near to the place we met?" asked Cinderella. "How did you know?" said the prince. "I didn't know you were a prince when we used to play," smiled Cinderella, as she found the love of her life. "I'm not rich and important like the people around us," she added. "You are the only girl I have thought about for all these years, and you're the only one I want to stay with for the rest of my life. I don't care if you're rich or poor," said the prince. Cinderella was happy to hear that. She wasn't poor, but she had lived like a poor girl in her own home for many years. Now she could start a new life with her prince, away from her stepmother and her cruelty. The prince proposed to her there and then. "Will you marry me, my lady?" he asked. He had never asked her name. He still didn't know what she was called. Cinderella was extremely happy to hear the prince propose to her, but suddenly the clock struck 12, and she remembered what the fairy had said. She could not bear for all the grand people at the prince's party to see her in her old rags. Cinderella ran quickly through the hall and down the stairs leading to the garden. One of her shoes slipped off her foot while she was running, but she didn't stop. Cinderella tried to jump into her coach, but at that moment, Cinderella's clothes, coach, coachman and horses all disappeared and changed back into her old ragged dress, a pumpkin, a mouse, and 6 doves. Cinderella and her little friends ran until they reached her house. She ran up the stairs, locked her door, and started crying. The prince found the crystal shoe on the stairs. It was remarkably small and beautiful. He didn't know why Cinderella had run away from him. Maybe she didn't want to marry him after all. but he was sure that she was as happy in his company as he was in hers. Find me the girl whose foot fits into this small crystal shoe. Search every home, rich and poor. I don't care who she is. I want to marry her, ordered the prince. Cinderella was scared that her stepmother might find the other crystal shoe and would punish her. She hid the shoe in the box of memories she kept under her bed. The next morning, Cinderella heard a knock at the door. When she opened it, she found the king's messenger waiting there. "Ask all the young ladies of the house to come and try on this shoe, please," said the messenger politely. Cinderella's stepsisters tried the shoe, but their feet didn't fit. The messenger asked Cinderella to try it on too. "There's no way that this shoe could belong to the maid," said her stepmother angrily. "These are the prince's orders, my lady," said the messenger firmly. The cruel stepmother was angry, but she couldn't do anything. The messenger tried the crystal shoe on Cinderella's foot, and it fitted her perfectly. "I have found the girl," said the messenger happily. "Go and tell the prince to come quickly," he told the guards. "It was you at the party. You're a liar and a cheat. You're my maid," the stepmother shouted at Cinderella. "You are the one who betrayed my father's trust. I was never your maid. I did the household chores out of love. I thought that maybe one day you would love me like a daughter," said Cinderella sadly. The prince arrived at Cinderella's house. He saw her in the ragged dress she had been wearing the first time they met. "I found you," said the prince. "Do you still want to marry me?" asked Cinderella. "More than ever. You are my princess," said the prince lovingly. Cinderella saw the kind fairy flying around happily. The prince took Cinderella's hand in his, helped her climb onto his horse, and they both took off to the palace to arrange their great wedding.